what is going on at Michael Byatt Arabians? The new, first of all, my big question, and on the hearts and minds of everyone, is how do you pronounce his name?
I'm so glad you asked me. You don't even have to say who it is. I know what you're talking about because I get that a lot. Follow me through my process. His father's name is Marwan. His mother's name is Lujtina, right? So to pay proper respect and homage to his sire, you would include the W. In Argentina, they said Martin, not properly acknowledging Marwan and the importance he has in any pedigree. So I call him Marwatin, and since data source records me as the owner, I choose Marwatin.
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 All you have to do is go back to the ZT list of horses ownership on data source, and it'll teach you how to pronounce every name, because all
Father,
they are is a
mother,
splice
father,
of
mother.
father and
But
mother. Yeah.
With me, say the father's name.
ZT Marwatin.
Yeah, but father is Marwan. Okay.
With
Cleared
me,
that up.
comma.
With me.
There you go, world.
Are
you
you-
heard it.
So everybody out there watching this, say after me, Marwatin. Granted, there's no A after the W, but let's be respectful to the father. All right, what else?
And I can hear them saying it
Yeah.
in internet land.
Name one thing about that horse that has you just over the moon. What is it about that horse that has you over the moon?
The way he walked out of the stall when I first saw him in Argentina, the entire thing about him, so long-legged, so strong, so beautiful.
So
He was
Lugene-like in the body, in a
He
way.
is the absolute combination of a Jamal
Yeah.
Marwan horse.
Yeah.
Structurally, he's very much like Lugene, long-legged, square-hipped, gorgeous. And then the Marwan, I can see him all through Marwatin, but he is absolutely the perfect combination of the two.
And I think another question that all of us who have purchased breedings to him, such as myself, when will we see more than a picture?
I invite you, and all of you to come to New Ulm, Texas. The privilege that I have at this point with that horse is I don't have to show him. He
Sure.
doesn't have to go anywhere. I don't have to train him to do anything. It's a place in my life that I don't have to be dictated to do anything with this horse. And I choose not to, at this point, interrupt his breeding schedule by training him or taking him to horse shows.
How many mares this year?
He's going to breed quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is Ibn Teen taken?
Ibn Teen, it is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Filed away. Done.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Another thing, Michael, that I'm really curious to hear, when you're in the show ring with a horse like Ghazal or Marwan, horses of that caliber, what goes through your mind, your feelings, from stress to excitement, joy, all of the above? Because I know, as someone who shows an amateur, and I'm of course very proud at showing my horses, but I couldn't imagine what goes through all of the emotions when showing a horse like a Marwan or a Ghazal.
Tennis lessons.
Showing Marwan was extremely stressful, especially when we took him back to Europe.
Sure, I
After he'd
remember that.
made such a contribution, after he'd been world champion twice, after he'd been U.S. national champion, after he'd been the leading sire in the world, it was really, really a risk to take a horse with his credentials and his value, put him in a trailer and haul him around. So when I was showing him that year, which we showed him in Aachen, in Paris, and in Doha.
You rode him.
I did ride him in Paris and Aachen. I did. And the main thing I thought is it was just really stressful. And more than anything, it was a relief when it was over.
Sure, of course.
But that being said, every part of it I have thought was an amazing privilege to get to walk in the ring with those horses. And I've never taken it for granted that I had that opportunity. It is a life, I mean, it could never happen again in my lifetime.
Sure.
I doubt it will. So relief in winning, but for sure a privilege to be able to represent those horses.
Now, I know you and Jeff have known each other for a very long time, and I've known you for a while. But your introduction to Arabian horses, can you tell us way back then?
It goes back to the Arabian Nationals that were held in Albuquerque in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I was a big horse fan, just of anything, and I rode all horses
From a child?
from a child. But they're giving away the age. I was 9 years old when I saw my first Nationals in 1967 in Albuquerque, and I was already hooked on horses, and then I was really hooked on Arabians from that point forward.
And what else, or what about the Arabian horse hooked you as opposed to the other breeds of horses?
That I had a neighbor next door to me that had Arabian horses. It really wouldn't have mattered at that point what it was.
Sure.
It wasn't a defined thing that specifically an Arabian horse, because at that point it could have been, and it was Appaloosas, Tennessee walking horses, anything and everything, any horse.
Sure.
I showed all those breeds, and I showed grade horses, and I did everything. But the fact that I had a neighbor who she's 85 years old and still lives in Albuquerque. Her name is Ethel Ortenberger, and she's on oxygen, and she still rides her horses, and she just happened to be a neighbor, and it was an amazing blessing in my life that she had Arabian horses.
Sure.
Is this true? And I'm being serious about this. Did Dinerka make you known, and Amber Satin and Bettina make you famous?
The biggest, Dinerka changed my profile from a performance trainer to a halter trainer, because Dinerka won Scottsdale in 1981, and it was the first really big stage thing I had done.
Right.
Previous to that big win, in 1980 I won the national champion Western Pleasure on Sylphon.
Right.
So Sylphon changed me from being a local trainer to a national trainer.
Okay.
Dinerka changed me from a national trainer to an international trainer.
Okay.
Because of the win at Scottsdale, people in Europe, the Borgards in Sweden, started inviting me in 1981 to show in Europe, and I have had a presence ever since. But she did change me from a trainer that could win in the United States to somebody who was then on the scene in Europe.
I see. I didn't realize that there was a European twist to that win. I didn't realize that.
The Borgards invited me as a result of that profile win. And actually, people just in the United States hired me to do seminars and different things. Susie Davis in Idaho flew me up to do a training seminar, and I had never been asked to do any of that, but it was because of Dinerka.
Was Imperator a big European experience for you?
Yes, because he was the first horse that I showed to world champion stallion. So he was a really big deal.
Okay.
We flew him over in '92. He was world champion stallion, and you know, I had won a lot of things in Europe before then, but he was the first world champion stallion.
Okay.
Title.
So to get a little more personal, if you were not doing what you do now, what do you think you would be doing? If you were not involved in Arabian horses, would you be Michael Byatt the lawyer, or Michael Byatt the chef?
It's such an impossible direction to go, because it is really at the core of what I am and who I am. I am a horseman and a horse lover. So really, I can't even imagine what it could have been as an alternative, because of the privilege that the horses have given me in a lot of ways. I have enormous interest in, I go to a lot of the Grand Slam tennis tournaments around the world. I would have loved to have been a professional tennis player. I like to read. There are so many things that the horses have afforded me to do. But at that juncture in my life, there wasn't a consideration that I might or might not be a horse person. I didn't know what it really meant to be a professional anything, but I knew I was going to have a life with horses.
Tom Laser was going to make you famous in Hollywood, remember?
He was. Tom Laser was going to. God bless Tom Laser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are there special qualities that you're looking for at each breeder's farm, and what are those?
There are so many good horses in the world that are structurally good, and just they're on a academic level, they're all sound and good. But what I want to see is something that moves me artistically, whether it's huge eyes or whether it's the way a horse walks out of the stall and has this glow about him. beyond being a really good horse, then if they can move me, or I like if I think about them 5 minutes after I've left the farm, and even better than that, if I'm thinking about them at night, then that's a horse that I really gravitate to.
Sure.
And that horse truly can have more faults as long as it has those extremes. I really, just a good horse that doesn't make me think about it after I've departed, that isn't enough.
Something that sticks in your mind, something that...
Yeah, I want to dream about
Right.
horses
Sure.
today. I want to think about them. I want to get moved by...
That wow factor.
Yeah. So, if I see a club foot, but I've got all this other stuff going on that just makes me so excited, okay, I'll put that in the context of the whole thing, but I want to be moved by the moment.
May we breed you a dream. Our dreams have come true.
Whose cliche is that? That you're...
Patterson's.
My success is your success. YSOIOSSIPPI. Your success is our success. That was
Lasma.
a syndicate. Your success, YSIOS.
That's right.
Weren't you in charge of all those stars, allocating stars?
I
You
was-
were the Vanna White of the Arabian
I
Horse
was,
Film
I
allocating.
absolutely was in
Yeah.
charge of that.
Yeah,
It
This
all
horse has
depended on how
5
much money you
stars.
wanted to spend.
that'll be edited out.
So with that said, what is your most memorable event in regards to the heyday, the 80s, the auctions, the presentations? What one sticks that you may be laying in bed and think about and just chuckle or laugh or say, God, that was a great event? Because I missed all of those, and I love hearing the stories of all of those.
Yeah, take for example the Scottsdale Arabian Horse Show or the U.S. Nationals. There was a complete theater to the beginning and end. It wasn't a grueling process to get from the start of the show to the end of the show. The whole thing was an event, and it was just so glorious and glamorous and action-packed and dressed up, and the parties were amazing, and the interesting people that we came in contact with as a result of those shows. Those sales where you had to fill out a credit application and actually be approved for this enormous amount of money before you could even get in the door.
Sure.
That was the 80s to me. It was just such, and sitting in Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque or Freedom Hall in Louisville and looking all the way at the top of the rafters, being full.
Yeah,
Right.
it was when so much was on the line. There was so much on the line.
It was not a horse show to get through and, here we go. It was, the exhilaration of just being present in those moments was enormous, and we certainly didn't appreciate it enough, because now that we don't really have that, it was incredible.
Well, I think that a lot of people, such as myself, I know when I first started going to the U.S. Nationals, I do remember walking into the Coliseum, and you're right, every seat was taken, and people were dressed to the nines, and it was an event. The green shavings and all the smoke, and it was really very, very exciting.
If you can visualize Tingley Coliseum in Albuquerque, in 1974, High Hopes and Soccer were in the park class, and one of those was going to win that class. And the volume of noise and people holding Sikkim Soccer signs up, and it was deafening. It was so amazing, and people all the way around standing and screaming.
Sure.
And it was, and I remember exactly where I sat. I sat third row from the very top of the Tingley Coliseum, and
Was it High Hopes or the judge?
The judge was 73.
Okay.
74 was High Hopes, and
Okay.
Jim Fisher came out of the South with this horse that was
Right.
just crazy, and it was just, Soccer gave us a lot of moments like that with the judge and with other horses that he competed against.
Sure.
But I was so thrilled just to be able to have a seat and third from the top. So that's the memory of the 70s and 80s that is absolutely just etched in my mind. The pulse was just deafening. You could hear your own heartbeat with excitement.
Sure.
George Huck when
Provige, one of those Boss Proviges.
out of the muzzle, Man and Daughter. What was her name? Scarlet Lace.
Oh yeah.
When she won and him
Right, it was
standing
crazy.
up, and
Crazy.
just amazing.
So if you could click your heels and change something about the future of our industry, what is it that you would like to see changed?
I I would love for us to value a top 10 ribbon and making a cut. Because if that does happen, then there'll be so many more moments and happy owners.
I agree.
So and I can remember a top 10, making the cut was a big deal. A top 10 was a victory in itself, and today it's considered a loss if you just get top 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we all need to educate our owners, ourselves, our kids, everybody, that top 10 is a great thing, and it has to be appreciated.
Yep, I agree. Well, thank you. This was fun.
I want to say one thing
Absolutely.
about him, because I've known him for so many years, and that is, I want to say one thing that you taught me, not just your conversation. When he showed a mare for me who had a tremendous spirit, he said to me very seriously, it is so important for me to not harness this spirit, but to not break this spirit, not harness this spirit, and let her be who she is. And I watched him do that with her. And it was a lovely thing that I don't think very many people are able to conceive and follow through on and be that in touch, you know? And that was an amazing experience. And I have seen things differently ever since then.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
thanks for that memory. That was
you're
great.
welcome.
With that said, I think, Michael, you are one of the halter trainers that we all love to watch you show, because I do think, you know, watching you with Marwan, I mean, you and Marwan are kind of one. And I couldn't imagine ever seeing anyone else show a horse like Marwan. And I think that is very important to the industry, whether you show Western horses or you show halter horses, is to have a connection. And you certainly seem to have that connection, and you do a great job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks.